Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Spring 2015 Fundamentals of the Wisdom of Kabbalah. My name is Albert. This is Vlad.
How are you, friends?
We will be your instructors for this semester. Welcome. And before we begin, we're just going to talk a little bit about the structure of this course, what exactly we're going to cover today, how to send in questions, all sorts of different things of this matter. So, this course is all about the wisdom of Kabbalah. It's the fundamentals course. We're in the spring semester. The length is twice a week. We meet twice a week for about an hour and 15. And it's
a total of 10 weeks.
Yeah, total of 10 weeks for the fundamental semester. We have the Wednesday and the Sundays. These are the 2 days that we meet. We also have, for those of you who are in Toronto, we have another option for this course to connect physically. And there's a few students in Toronto who are coming together physically to watch this lesson and then afterwards have their own experience. And it's something very special. We're going to talk more about this later on.
Yeah, and it's a brand new format that we're actually employing for. It's been some 7 or 8 years that we've been running classes online since 2007, and it's the first time that we're actually splitting the air between the virtual students and also the students who have gathered in the physical medium.
Yeah. So the class is gonna involve a lot of material, a lot of the Kabbalistic content, but it's also going to involve your participation. So it's very important, each and every person, to participate. How do you participate? By sending in questions.
Yes, absolutely.
And as many questions as you have about the topic, not about the topic, send in as many as you can. And the more the better. The more we get a chance to feel what exactly interests you, the more we get to tailor this lesson according to your needs, according to your desire.
We very often are guilty of forgetting a certain nuance here and there, a certain detail to include it. And your questions help us clarify it. Your questions give us a chance to, as Albert said, tailor the lesson to your needs. And if we miss something and you ask that question, and a person from across the globe who's watching the lesson together with you right now might be in dire need to hear that specific explanation that your question is going to evoke.
So to send in your questions, there's a panel on the right where you can put in your name, chat window, put in your name, where you're from, and your question. So if you have any questions, send it in. Primarily, we do take questions that are directly related to the topic. But I'll tell you a little secret. It's just between you and me. That if you have a certain question not directly related to the topic, and you really want it answered, just try to find a way sneak it in there, connect it to whatever it is that we're talking about. It'll give you that much higher chance of getting your question answered. So just a little secret between you and me.
All right.
So that's that. There's also going to be more opportunities for you to participate, meaning to send in your input besides the questions. There are times when we ask questions to the students. We ask them, what do you think about this, or why do you think this is like that, or have you heard anything about this? And we really need your input for this. And we're going to do something like that right now.
Today, at least once.
Yeah. So we're going to ask you, what do you know about the wisdom of Kabbalah? In one sentence, what have you heard? If you don't know anything at all, that's fine. That's great. This is why we're here in the fundamentals. But if you want to share, what do you know about the wisdom of Kabbalah? What have you heard about it? In about one sentence, try to give us like a one-sentence summary of what you know about it. Maybe something interesting you've heard about it, or something strange, or something, scary that you've heard about it. There's all sorts of things that are tied to the wisdom. And it's important to bring this out so we can discuss where it's coming from.
And of course, we're going to dispel, a lot of misconceptions and rumors about the wisdom today. So a very useful medium.
So we're asking all the students to send in your answers to this question. What do you know about the wisdom of Kabbalah? And we're going to read some of your answers, and we'll get a chance to get to know you, and we'll get a chance to discuss all these things together.
Yeah, we have a list of the students and the places, and it's just incredible how students are just scattered all across the globe. A large portion of the students are from the North America, but a lot are from other places as well. If you'd like, I can read some. So we have students from Aruba, from Nebraska, California, Toronto, Mexico, Brazil, Baltimore, New York, Georgia, Florida, North Carolina, Jamaica, Minnesota, Kentucky, New Jersey, Montana, Pennsylvania, Texas, More students from Texas. Virginia, Atlanta, Georgia, Romania, more and more students from Brazil. That's even more than last semester. Last semester we had at least 6, I believe, from Brazil. This time we have more. From Canada, British Columbia, Florida, Georgia, Norway, Seattle, Texas. More students from New York, another student from Peru, California.
Wow.
And the list goes on and on. They keep on sending it to me, and if you want, I can get back to it.
Okay,
and read more.
Very cool. We also have, like we said, there's a group in Toronto that is gathering together to watch this lesson together. So there's probably 10, 15 students just there watching this lesson together with us. So that's that. We also just asked them a question, and I already see some really interesting responses. What do they know about the wisdom of Kabbalah? So let's maybe take a second to hear some of their answers.
Yeah, Sonia from Mexico claims it is a science.
Okay. Nice.
William from Fort Worth, Texas says Kabbalah is equal to reception.
Interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Elise from Australia says attainment to our Creator, growing in spirituality, and healing this earth.
Interesting. These are really, really mature answers.
Yeah.
Usually,
Rhonda from North Carolina, yes, absolutely. It's every semester it becomes more and more intense. It seems. Wow, so many questions. My
computer can't keep up.
Yeah, Monty from North Carolina says, "See, I already don't see Monty because so many.
Monty.
A practice to find the truth."
Yes.
Larry from Glen Burnie, Maryland says, "I did not hear anything about the wisdom of Kabbalah."
Perfect. It's even better.
Mm-hmm.
it's that much easier for you.
Jared from Pennsylvania says he's read about the fact that it's all about infinite delight.
Wow.
Molly from Texas says it's the method of achieving our true nature. Rhonda, whom I mentioned before, from North Carolina, says Kabbalah is a science pertaining to the origin of a human being. Hadass from Vancouver says mysteries of the working... See, and it disappeared again.
Hadass, mysteries of the working of the universe,
so
more specifically how to connect to our soul as a divine creative power. Very interesting.
Beautiful. I should use your link next time.
Okay. So thank you guys for sharing. If you still didn't get a chance to share, please send in your answer to the question. What do you know about the wisdom of Kabbalah in one sentence or less, something very short. But really, thank you for sharing. This is something I've never seen before. That we've taught this semester, this class, countless times before, and really there's such a maturity of the answers. It's a sign that the people really come prepared to this class.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, we have a student from Jamaica, Susanna, and she's saying that people in Jamaica think it's voodoo, and they cannot talk about it there.
So this is really the typical answer we're really looking for, I think, because there's a lot of misconceptions that are tied to the wisdom of Kabbalah. A lot of times people hear, oh, it's voodoo, mysticism. I've heard Satan worship.
Satan worship. I've heard that too.
It's one of my favorites, Satan worship.
It's funny how about 4 years ago, and we were doing exactly the same class, whether with you or with someone else. And we asked the same question, and the answers were precisely what you're talking about. Voodoo, devil worshipping, tarot, mysticism, you name it. Anything but what the students are saying today.
And all of these, I would say, misconceptions. Right? I'm already labeling it as misconceptions, but all of these things, they're really coming from somewhere. There's a reason behind all of these things being tied to the wisdom of Kabbalah. What is that reason? We're going to explore this in this upcoming semester. We're going to touch on it today, but we're really going to unravel it as the semester continues. Just keep in mind, there's a lot of things tied to it. This is really the tip of the iceberg. There's some of the more typical ones are you can go crazy. Right, it's some kind of Jewish mysticism, some kind of weird philosophy, esoteric.
It's limited only to specific people of specific faith, of specific age, those who are married, those who have kids, males only, right? Those who have studied the 7 basic sciences. What else is there?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes they say you have to be a man, you have to be married, you have to be this, you have to be that. All sorts of things are tied to the wisdom of Kabbalah. I forgot my favorite one. That studying it somehow leads to drinking innocent children's blood.
Oh, that's interesting.
Have you heard that one?
No, I haven't. No.
Yeah, something to do with, something to do with I guess the different things that were tied to Jews over the generations.
That's true.
True. All of these things, we're sort of jumping ahead. We're saying they're misconceptions, but what is the source of them? Why are all these things tied to the wisdom of Kabbalah? We're going to talk about this in a little bit.
Just real quick, Fred Friedman, I guess he either connected late or didn't hear us introducing ourselves. But this is Albert.
Hey.
My name is Vlad, and we're your instructors for today.
Yeah. So, where is this wisdom coming from? What is the source of this wisdom? Who was the first one to discover the wisdom of Kabbalah? Right, and what would the Kabbalists say in this regard?
Well, the first person who discovered the wisdom of Kabbalah did it so about 6,000 years ago. To be more precise, 5,776, something like that, right? Years. Yeah. What year is it?
I lose track.
That's 80 years, yes. But it was basically the very first time that a person has discovered the upper reality, the complete reality. Now, the first Kabbalist, the actual Kabbalist who developed a system upon which regular people would be able to connect to the wisdom, would be able to connect to that ultimate reality, was Abraham, the patriarch of Babylon.
Yeah. And this exact sequence of passing this wisdom along from teacher to student, what exactly it symbolizes, also, we're going to talk a little bit more about this in the upcoming classes. But we just today really want to uncover what is the wisdom of Kabbalah all about? What is its essence? Right? How can we define it? So what we're going to do today, we're going to unravel the way it's defined by the Kabbalists themselves. We're going to go straight to the sources. Despite all of these different misconceptions tied to it, we're going to go straight to the source and see what exactly do the Kabbalists tell us about the wisdom of Kabbalah.
And to that end, before we forget, this is something that I always recommend, because to me it's absolutely essential, and I hope it will become so to you. This wonderful book, Kabbalah for the Student, is just purely essential piece of quite a lot of pages, actually. Everything that a new student of the wisdom of Kabbalah needs in order to study it. It's a wonderful collection of a couple of Kabbalists' works, beautifully translated into English. It's a very comprehensive piece of literature. A vast majority of our readings are going to be taken from this book in this semester. We'll take it from a couple of other places as well, but this is the basis that you most certainly need to have. I believe there's digital formats of this book available, so I'm pretty sure that the moderator is going to send links as to where to obtain them. Right?
Okay, so we heard what all the students have heard about the wisdom of Kabbalah. Now let's hear how the Kabbalists define it. So we're going to turn to page 21 of Kabbalah for the Student. If you already have the book, because there's some really advanced students here, maybe some of them have already purchased it.
Yes, exactly. So those of you who have it already, Kabbalah for the Student, we're reading from page 21 from the article called "The Essence of the Wisdom of Kabbalah." And the quote is from Baal Salam. It's easily the greatest Kabbalist of the 20th century, as well as we can say that the greatest Kabbalist, period. Because this Kabbalist has translated into the modern language the wisdom of Kabbalah, made it accessible to the modern folk. And he is the one who notoriously brought the book of Zohar, the great book of Zohar, who has been sought after for centuries upon centuries by people all across the globe as the most incredible, most powerful book ever conceived. He basically took that book and wrote a very massive piece of commentary on it called the Sulam Commentary. For that reason, he was called Bala Sulam, Master of the Ladder. And that book has become pretty much, his business card, I guess. The one great thing that people knew him for. And it is this Kabbalist that we are starting this semester with, because pretty much the whole system and the whole method that Bnei Baruch is employing is built on the teachings of Baal Salam. So we're turning to page 21, Essence of the Wisdom of Kabbalah, within Kabbalah for the student.
So if you have the book, open up the book. If you don't, for now, the moderator is going to send you a link to the article. So you can just open up the link on your computer and still follow along.
So from page 21, the quote reads, this wisdom, so again, we are defining what the wisdom of Kabbalah is according to the sages, right? Baal Salam says, this wisdom is no more and no less than a sequence of roots which hang down by way of cause and consequence, by fixed determined rules, interweaving to a single exalted goal, described as the revelation of the Creator to His creatures in this world. Maybe I should write it down? No?
Yes. But
just in case if we need to.
Okay, while you write it, I'll read it again. Go ahead. Right. So he says, how does Baal Salam define this wisdom? He says this wisdom is no more and no less than a sequence of roots which hang down by way of cause and consequence, by fixed, determined rules, interweaving to a single exalted goal described as the revelation of the Creator to His creatures in this world. What does that mean? It's quite a mouthful. If you've heard it for the very first time, it's not easy to comprehend. So what we're going to do while Vlad is writing it,
you can see.
Huh? Okay. It's too small.
Too small? This quote is not going to fit if I write it in bigger letters.
Forget the quote. We'll give him a simplified version. What is Baal Salam trying to tell us here by telling us the system is no more sequence of roots, all of the stuff? What is he saying? In essence, he's telling us that the wisdom of Kabbalah is a method by which one can attain this thing called the Creator in this life. So it's a method by which one can attain the Creator in this life. And even the simplified version, I think, still needs quite an explanation.
Yes, of course.
So maybe let's write the simplified version at least, and then we'll break it down one by one. So first of all,
right?
The method, this wisdom. This wisdom is a method by which one can attain the Creator.
Is this large enough? Yeah, should be large enough. The method by which
one can attain the Creator in this life.
In this life. All right.
Okay. What does that mean? Let's start with method. What is this thing called a method? What makes it a method? Why isn't it a religion? Why isn't it a philosophy? Why isn't it some kind of mysticism? But specifically, it's a method. And when Baal Salam says method, when we define this wisdom as a method, what are we trying to say? We're trying to say that it's a scientific method. It's empirical. It's practical. It has a cause and effect relationship that we can try out, and we can come to a certain result.
It has a degree of precision to it, right?
Exactly. Just like when we go into a science lab, a chemistry lab, and we take a certain procedures and we follow those procedures that the scientists give us, and we reach a certain result. This is exactly the same thing. The Kabbalists are these scientists. What do? They have went through this method. They have attained this thing called the Creator. And they're giving us the steps. They're saying, okay, you want to also attain this thing called the Creator? Here is the procedure. Follow it. And what's going to happen? You should reach this result. Just like any science. So this is why the wisdom of Kabbalah is defined as a method, meaning it's practical, empirical, scientific. It's very down to earth. So right away we're seeing that the wisdom of Kabbalah is what? It's a method and not a religion, not a philosophy, not something based on faith that you need to believe anything. There's really no belief here. You follow the method, you get a certain result. That's it. And so much so that it's not a system of belief, where most systems of beliefs, where is the result? Mm-hmm. The result is after
in the next life,
right?
Yeah.
In the next life. But what are we saying here? We're saying this method is attained in this life.
You attain.
So, what is in this life? We already said that it's not something after you die. So it's not something that you need to believe in order to achieve. It's something that you implement this method and you reach a certain result. And the beautiful thing about in this life, I really love using this example. It's something very down to earth, very practical that you reach right now. Mm-hmm. And I remember personally, it's a little short story, but I remember personally when I first found the wisdom of Kabbalah, I'm like, wow, this is great. It answers all these great questions. What is the meaning of my life? How to reveal the Creator and all of this stuff. And I go up to my dad and I tell him, Dad, I found this really cool method. It's wisdom of Kabbalah, and I can reach something. I can reach the Creator. I can get somewhere with it. It gives me an answer to something I've been asking all of my life. And he goes to me, he goes, Albert, you're a young man. You have so much potential. What do you need this wisdom of Kabbalah for? I understand if you're, 60, 70, somewhere closer
to death.
Closer to death, exactly. If you're closer to death, you want to get on God's good side.
That's awful.
You want to do something about it then. But why do you need to worry about it right now? And what is this example saying? It's telling us that the wisdom of Kabbalah, it's not something we believe in. It's not something we reach when we die. But it's something we actualize right here and right now. This is the key, one of the key differences between the wisdom of Kabbalah and other methods. So, what else do we have? It's a method by which one can attain the Creator. All right. So we have a few more things that we can define. We can define one. Who is this? Who is this one?
Well, one is quite literally anyone. Anyone is able to achieve what Kabbalah is promising to achieve. Not someone who's over 40 years old, not someone who's necessarily male, not someone who's necessarily whose mother is necessarily Jewish, right? Not someone who's necessarily married. You name it, right? All the misconceptions that we have out there are exactly that, misconceptions. Anyone and everyone has the right, the birthright, I would say, actually, to attain the purpose of their lives. This is precisely what the wisdom of Kabbalah is here to resolve.
And I'll just add a small thing, that anyone, whoever has the desire.
Yep.
It's a small addition, but it's something that's very important. What exactly is this desire that we come with to the wisdom of Kabbalah? We're going to talk a little about this in a few minutes, but something very important. Anyone and everyone, as long as you have the desire, if you want to come study the wisdom of Kabbalah, you have the desire for it, please, it's all open.
Exactly. So, if you're not thirsty, you can't drink.
Exactly. So what is this thing, attainment of the Creator? How do we define this? So far we learned that the wisdom of Kabbalah, some kind of method, will help us reach some kind of goal while we're alive, scientific, we don't have to believe anything. So what is the attainment of the Creator? When the Kabbalists use the word attain, they mean feel. They don't mean to think about, to philosophize, to, read about it, but it's something very practical. If we're not in a genuine sensation, in a genuine experience of this thing called the Creator, then we have not actualized the method.
So I am in attainment of this pen right now. I have attained this pen. It is completely in my hands. I can feel it. I can smell it. Right? I can see it well. I can hear it rattling. You name it. everything. I can taste it if I wanted to, but it's probably too dirty, But basically, in other words, attainment is a complete sensation and understanding of that something that we're trying to attain. Okay? Right?
Yeah. So by attain, we mean feel, to come to experience. And lastly, and probably the most important, what it is that we're trying to attain. What is it that we're trying to feel? Kabbalists are saying it's this thing called the Creator. So what is the Creator? Is it some, man in the sky that we typically picture? If you ask somebody, what is the Creator? I'm sure if we were to ask you this question, we would get 100 different responses, all of them completely different as to what exactly this thing is. And if we even look at society, how society defines the Creator, there's this typical image, right? Mm-hmm. I know sometimes we joke around with...
we usually say that it's an older looking man, mm-hmm. right? With a long white beard.
That's much cooler than ours. He's much longer.
Yeah, exactly. He's a little heavy set, slightly heavy set. He sits in the cloud. He looks down upon us from the cloud, and he judges us every single minute of our lives.
Are you using a South Park reference? Not South Park, a Family Guy?
Possibly.
So typically, this is the typical connotation of the Creator. What is it? Like Vlad said, it's this man in the sky with a beard throwing thunderbolts at us, all sorts of things like that. What is it really? What does the wisdom of Kabbalah define this thing called the Creator? And this thing called the Creator, in the wisdom of Kabbalah, it's a certain quality. It's a certain force. It's a certain force, certain quality that we begin to experience, that we begin to resemble, that we begin to come in contact with. What do all these things mean? It's something that we're really going to unravel more so throughout the course. But just keep in mind, when we're speaking of the Creator, we're speaking of a certain quality. What is this quality? How is this quality different from our current qualities? How do we come to resemble this quality? All of these hows we're gonna unravel more in the course. So just keep in mind, when we speak of the Creator, we're come in contact with a certain quality, with a certain force. We're going to give more examples of this in a few minutes. But we also want to open up right now to maybe some questions and answers.
Well, the first question that must be answered, and that's from Jose from New Jersey. What does the word Kabbalah mean?
Of course.
We forgot about that.
Kabbalah is Hebrew for reception. What does it have to do with reception? Right? What does that have to do with reception? And I guess the rest of the way we defined it. We're gonna. I don't know if we want to go into it right now because it's right after the Q&A where we're gonna go into exactly this.
We'll get into explanation exactly what the wisdom of Kabbalah, what the word Kabbalah means, and why it means that. So, Jose, bear with us for another 5 minutes, and we will give you the answer. Let's see. Interesting question from Jerry from Brazil. He says. I know nothing about Kabbalah. I wonder how Kabbalah can help me in everyday life. Maybe some examples. To you personally, what did it give you?
How does Kabbalah help us in our everyday life? I'll tell you this. When I came to the wisdom of Kabbalah, I came with a certain sensation. I came with a certain feeling, with a certain desire. I felt lost in life. I had this sensation that I seemingly had everything, and I use the word seemingly because I didn't actually have everything, but I had the feeling that I had everything. I had the perfect job, money was not a problem. I had a great girlfriend who I knew I was going to marry someday, and which I have in fact done. I had everything that I could have wanted. There was the apartment, the car, the this, the that, and I was really asking, what more is there to life? What is it that we live this life? Why are we alive? And I remember so much so this question that every time I would ask it, I would turn to some of my coworkers and I would ask them, like, what is there to life? I didn't phrase it quite this way. I said differently. I said, if you had all the money in the world, what would you do then? Because typically, what happens? Typically, we're stuck in a certain race, and we don't see that there's more to life. We're just living a day-to-day life, and we're always worried on a day-to-day basis. So I asked a question like about the future. I said, if you had all the money in the world, what would you do? And nobody had like an answer that satisfied it. They said, I would travel the world, or I would send my kids to college, or I don't know, I would just sit around. And I said, okay, so you travel the world, you sent your kids to college. What would you do then? And the answer was, I don't know, I'd wait to die or something. Really, there was just so much so that people didn't have an answer to this question. And I knew I needed to find something that will help me give an answer to this question, to help me to actualize this question. So first and foremost, what does the wisdom of Kabbalah give us? It gives us an answer to the question, what is the meaning of my life? Why are we alive?
You realize the purpose of being born. You realize that you have a certain mission in life. You realize that you are not born in vain. And that's a very important aspect of our daily life here, because for the most part, and for a lot of us, it's quite a torment to wake up every morning and not knowing where are you headed. Where is the light at the end of the tunnel? What exactly are we heading to? And particularly in the days that we live in, on both sides. On the one hand, because this specific desire, this question has become much more burning in recent times, the meaning of life. And on the other hand, because the times that we live in are very uncertain, that every single day seems like, if anyone asks to predict, how do you see what 6 months from now or a year from now looks like? I have no clue what's going to happen. Right? It's just we live in very uncertain times, and in this respect, this question is becoming more and more prevalent and more bitter, I would say.
Yeah. So, firstly, the wisdom of Kabbalah answers, what is the meaning of my life? It gives you the tools, not just the answer, because I can give you the answer, but what are you going to do with it? It gives you more than that. It gives you the tools to actually come to actualize, to realize that goal. So that's what it gives you. Secondary, of course, there's some other benefits. We define the wisdom as attaining of the Creator. We haven't fully defined this thing called the Creator yet, but it's something that's going to take a few lessons to really ingrain into you what it means. Right now, a lot of us still have this misconception of what the Creator is. But coming into contact, attaining the Creator, feeling this thing called the Creator, what does that mean? What is the benefit of that? And the answer to that is that whatever it is that the Creator, that this quality, that this force has, we have it as well. Because why? Because when we come into contact, the process of coming into contact with this force is the process by which we become similar to it. And through this process, we also receive everything that the Creator has. And this is exactly the next section that we're gonna jump to. So if there's any questions before this that we need to tackle.
There was one more very interesting question, and that was from Janet from British Columbia, Canada. And she's asking, you said Kabbalah is a science with reproducible results. At what point in the study of Kabbalah is one able to reach a result that can be sensed or measured? What is that threshold that we're talking about between what I feel right now and the point where I feel this thing called the Creator?
Okay, so I'll answer it like this. There's this threshold, there's this change, there's this feeling in every single lesson. And a good way that we can measure how close we are, how further along we've developed, is really by asking ourselves some simple questions. And these are the simple questions that we're going to cover in this course. So what I really recommend for you to really feel the changes that you'll undergo, the different things you'll experience, is for you to ask some simple questions right now at the beginning of this course, and ask them again in, let's say, 10 weeks after this course. Basic questions. Why are we alive? What is this thing called the Creator? How do we come into contact with this thing called the Creator? Who
am I?
Who am I? Of course.
Why do I suffer?
Why do I suffer? We're going to cover such things as free will. So, question: where is our free will?
What is the limit to human pleasure? Is there a need for that limit?
So, right now, at the beginning of the semester, ask yourself all of these different questions. And then ask them again in a few lessons, in 5, 10 lessons, and see just how much your perception will change.
Drastic change. It's incredible. It really is.
Really, I remember myself when I underwent this course many years ago. I was just shocked. Really, there's such a depth to your understanding, to your ability to answer these questions, to really feel the essence of life, and to really feel how much you're advancing simply by seeing your answers to these questions. So we highly recommend for you to do the same thing. This is one of the easier ways that we can measure our advancement along the path. Do we have more?
I believe we have.
Friends, don't stop sending us questions. Bombard us with questions. The more, the better. Primarily, we prefer those on topic, but anything at all is also good. So send in as many questions as you have to us. We'll cover as many as we can as well. We also, I believe, have some questions from Toronto. I'm not sure if they're ready to give us maybe a live question or not. But if they are, guys, let us know. And right about now would be a good time. So if you guys are already in Toronto, somebody there who's sitting in that class wants to ask a question live to us, go ahead. Okay.
I guess not.
So if there is a question, just let us know in the chat, and we'll make room for it.
Okay. So to answer the question from Jose from New Jersey, right? He was asking, what is the meaning of the word Kabbalah? So Kabbalah, from Hebrew and from ancient Aramaic, translation is reception. Kabbalah is reception. In other words, it's the wisdom that teaches us how to correctly and properly receive pleasure in our life. Wait, why do I need that? Right? Don't I already receive plenty of pleasure? Isn't there so much pleasure out there that I'm still yet to taste? Isn't there so much to get pleased by, to get delighted by out there? Well, most certainly there is plenty to enjoy in the world. The problem is that, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, because we've finally come to this place and to this point in our lives, pleasure isn't something that stays with us. Pleasure isn't something that we necessarily get satisfied with. The pleasure is fleeting, and this is an issue that we have. And it goes on a very basic level. I am hungry, right? I haven't eaten in 12 hours. On my way home, I am imagining, all of these, pictures of food, and with juices flowing, and with, sprinklings of greens on top, and spices, and you name it, right? Just a very, very beautiful dish of food. I can't wait to lay my hands on that food. I can't wait to taste it. The moment I taste that food, it tastes heavenly. As a matter of fact, the hungrier you are, the better the food tastes. You can eat the simplest of foods, and you will enjoy it, right? Mm. Because you're so hungry, because your desire is that deep, right? But I continue eating, and I eat, and I eat, and I eat, and I eat. The pleasure is still there, but I'm less and less interested in food as the course of the meal goes along. I eat to the point that I am either full, or like the comedian Louis C.K. likes to say, until I hate myself. Right? Basically, we get to the point where food not only doesn't taste good anymore, but it actually starts to taste really weird. We are almost revolted by it. We want to reject it at that point where our desire has been fully filled. But wait a minute. Just maybe 20 minutes ago, before I started eating this meal, I craved it so badly. It was something that I wanted so much. And 20 minutes later, I'm revolted by the idea of eating anything else. What's up with that? I get a new girlfriend, right? Very pretty, wonderful woman. I want to marry her. I spend countless days and nights with her. I vow that I am ready and willing to spend all of my life with her. Time passes, and I get used to her. Something's not there. Something's not right. Something is missing. I'm craving something new. I'm craving something exhilarating again, right? That sensation of almost having it, but not quite having it yet. Just like it happens during courtship, right? I'm purchasing a new car. I finally purchased that new car. It's shiny, it's beautiful, it smells like a new car. I turn on the engine, it revs, it gives me wonderful sensations, when I hear the revving of the engine. I take it on the highway, I enjoy it a lot. I do it again and again and again for many days. A week or two later, I have a new car. First day you're like, guys, I have a new car. A month later you meet someone who doesn't know you have a new car. You're like, yeah, by the way, I have a new car. Yeah, right? And maybe a year later you're already thinking, oh my, I have another 2 years lease on this car. When is this lease going to be finally over so that I could get a new one? In other words, everything that we lay our hands on in order to receive pleasure from it almost literally fades before our eyes. We pick it up and it melts. It just floats away. Nothing is everlasting. Nothing is there to give us continuous pleasure. Kabbalists explain to us that the reason for that is because our pleasure is based purely on reception. That we as human beings were created to receive. But wait a minute. Jose, you were asking what the meaning of the word Kabbalah means, and it said reception. So what's wrong here? What does Kabbalah do in order to aid this thing called reception? And this is precisely what the wisdom of Kabbalah does, is that we are tweaking the method by which we receive in order to be able to receive continuously, in order to be able to receive delight continuously. How do we do it? Right here. The Creator. The Creator is the force of bestowal. The force of bestowal, the force of love, the force of altruism. That is completely opposite to our receiving nature, our nature of reception. And the way we tweak our desire, and this is pretty much what the process is, what we're going to be doing in the wisdom of Kabbalah. We're going to be working, right, the method right here, right? We're going to be working, applying this method upon our desire to receive, in order to switch not the desire itself, not to change the desire where I am receiving, but rather the vector of the desire, the direction of the desire, the purpose of the desire, the intention behind that desire. Who am I receiving for? Who am I trying to please with that desire? In other words, the reception that we have is reception for the sake of my own self, reception in order to receive. Kabbalah teaches us that the true pleasure, the true boundless delight, endless, infinite delight, something that we can't even fathom how truly intense it is, lies in a very similar plane, but at the same time quite opposite to it. It's also in reception, but in order to bestow. And we'll talk more on this. It's a very, very big, massive subject. But this is the very basic explanation where the word Kabbalah comes from. It's reception, but it teaches us how to receive differently. Receive the way this force that created us, the way this force intended for us to receive.
Now, before we continue, I've heard that there is a question from Toronto.
Wonderful.
So let's take a second right now to hear their question, and let's see what they have to say. Toronto, please give us your question.
I wish to understand, when we pray to the Ancient One, is it important that we understand the 72 names?
Okay, can you just tell us your name?
My name is Wanda.
Wanda.
All right.
Thank you for the question, Wanda. So what is this thing called prayer? In essence, when we begin to study the wisdom of Kabbalah, one of the interesting things that takes place, something I love a lot. It's something is this redefining of all these basic words that we use. We've seen it today, how we redefine this thing, let's say, called the Creator, how we redefined what the wisdom of Kabbalah is. And throughout this study, we're going to be redefining a lot of words. And it's really not just a redefining, but what are we trying to do? We're trying to look at it from the point of view of the wisdom of Kabbalah, from the point of view of the Kabbalists. So when the Kabbalists are talking about, for example, in here, the Creator, they're referring to a certain force, to a certain quality that we begin to resemble. And through the resembling of this quality, we begin to perceive a new reality. So this is just one example, and there's many more examples of these everyday words that we're used to that we're going to need to redefine along our studies together. One of these other words is prayer. What is this thing called prayer? Of course, there's many other words like soul, like
man and woman.
Man, woman. Right? There's you name it. There's a different way that the Kabbalists look at it for almost every single word. So throughout the course, we're going to be slowly redefining these things
and rediscovering it all over again, right? Well, Wanda, there's going to be a class on
prayer,
on the roots and branches,
right?
And roots and branches is a concept in the wisdom of Kabbalah, which speaks to the fact that everything that we have in our world is nothing more or less than an extension, a branch of a certain root that exists in the spiritual world, in the world of causes. So our world is just a world of consequences. And what we know in this world, something that we call a prayer, is yet another big misconception over what the actual prayer is about. So the wisdom of Kabbalah is not a religion. So any even slight, remote similarity to religion that you may find in the text of the wisdom of Kabbalah, just, I guess, write down for yourself a note. Anything that reminds you of religion in the wisdom of Kabbalah does not mean what it means in religion. This is a law. This is like an axiom, hang it on the wall somewhere. It's literally like that. It means something completely different, and we are here to guide you along that path little by little to really clarify and again rediscover what these terms actually mean, and to what an extent they're infinitely deeper and more meaningful than what we're used to knowing them as. A prayer is a very special connection with the upper force by means of similitude of qualities between myself and that force. It has nothing to do with words. It has nothing to do with naming 72 or 136 or 2051 names. It has nothing to do with any naming. It has nothing to do with moving your mouth or uttering any words whatsoever. A prayer is something that dwells within our hearts, something that dwells within our thoughts, something that is a very internal thing. And whether we name the names or we don't name the names, it's not going to matter, because the Creator and that force of bestowal, that force of love, is an absolute unbending law. It's not a creator that determines and says, hey, that guy down there in Chile is praying to me to change the reality that I created, right, to be something else. Maybe I was wrong to create it this way. I should correct my mistake, right? This is the normal thinking of a regular human being. We're used to expecting that we can somehow change reality, and that reality was created incorrectly, and we can change it by praying to it. Not quite. We are supposed to change here, and not the creator, not that force. The force itself is a law. It's an unbending law of love and bestowal and altruism. Our job in that prayer, and we'll talk more about it in consequent classes, just to give you an idea, right? The prayer that the Kabbalists do is a much more internal affair. It has something to do with changing the qualities within in order to become more similar to the force, in order to recognize that the force created whatever it is that you're considering in precisely correct fashion.
And of course, we're going to talk about a lot more about prayer in the future classes. This is just a little taste of what is to come. One thing that I can recommend is that as we're going through this course, these different definitions that we're giving to these common terms, at least terms that we seemingly hear in everyday life, that we have different connotations for. What we recommend is for you to write these things down, these definitions, and every time you come in contact with it, try to redefine it the way the Kabbalists, the way the wisdom of Kabbalah is defining these terms, such as the Creator. Soon prayer, like Vlad said, soon we'll give you more definitions for the special desire that people come with to the wisdom of Kabbalah. So just make yourself a little Kabbalistic dictionary, right? And it's going to really help you.
Helps.
It will definitely help along the way. Let's keep going. There's a lot of questions. I saw let's
go to questions.
They took my advice of bombarding us with questions really well. There's so many questions and quite a few really spicy ones. I like this one from Susanna from Jamaica. She's asking, so are you saying that spiritual pleasure is limitless?
Oh yes, absolutely. It most certainly is limitless. It's something that hard to imagine. What does it mean to receive, get pleasure from it, and be able to receive again and get even? I would go even a step further. Receive again and get even more pleasure from it again. How? Why? What? That's confusing, right? It's not something that we're used to. Nevertheless, this is the according to the formula. If you look at the formula of positives and negatives, right? I take a desire that is really negative, let's say negative 14, right? And I try to fill it with the pleasure, which is precise measure of pleasure required to fill the desire of negative 14 is positive 14, right? And what am I left with in the end? Of course I'm left with 0. Of course there's 0. Nothing is left in the end. I want something this much. I receive this much into that desire. I am left with nothing. There is absolutely no pleasure or desire left. Pleasure neutralizes desire, and this is a sad fact of our existence.
After all, how much, you gave the example of food.
Yeah.
How much food can we possibly eat? All right, picture yourself the juiciest steak or the greatest chocolate cake or cheesecake, whatever it is that you're into. Personally, I love cake and let's say cheesecake. How much cheesecake can we possibly fill ourselves with before it becomes repulsive? Before it completely cancels our appetite for that same cheesecake. And but by my own standards, I think about 2 pieces before it really begins to taste super sweet. And I was like, I want to throw up already. I'm a lightweight. I'm sorry. I'm sure some of our friends can handle a lot more than 2 pieces of cheesecake. But really, how much can we possibly receive before our hunger is satiated? So what does the wisdom of Kabbalah do? it comes and it gives us a solution to this problem. Instead of just receiving with our desire directly and satiating this desire, canceling it, is there a way that we can receive without neutralizing our desire? Meaning, is there a way that I can continuously eat this cheesecake in this example without using my own desire, without using my own hunger, but really enjoying it throughout the whole process? And the answer is yes, there is a way. This is why the wisdom of Kabbalah is called reception, because it teaches us how to properly receive in such a way that we don't neutralize our initial desire. We experience the pleasure as just a continuous flow of pleasure. This is what it's all about. It's a very good question, Susanna. Guys, send us more questions as much as we have. It would be great to have even 10 times more. Send us more questions, and we'll be glad to take as many as we can. Is there anything that...
Interesting question from Anne from Peru. I feel it's something that's that should be... Oh, you have it already. Beautiful. All right. No, it's a very important question, because we're sure, and thank you, Anne, for asking it, because we're pretty sure that a lot of other friends here may have that question themselves, and it's going to help them a lot. What do you tell family members if they're worried you study Kabbalah? What do you tell your parents?
What did I tell my dad?
To this day, what do you tell? Just for the record, Albert's wife's parents still have no clue that Albert studies Kabbalah on a daily basis. They're clueless. He goes. He visits.
What if they're watching this exact message? You're revealing it so openly.
To this day, they have no clue that they're studying. They're that much against it. Can you believe?
Yes. It's a tough one. But at the same time, we really need to understand where they're coming from. And when it comes to parents, usually, as the older we get, the more we understand that they're not trying to harm us, but they're really just looking out for us. They have a certain conception of the wisdom of Kabbalah, and in their conception, just like we started talking about all these different misconceptions tied to the wisdom, in their view, Kabbalah is something scary, mystical, you can go crazy, this can happen, that can happen. So this is where they're coming from. So when they're telling you, are you going to be okay studying the wisdom of Kabbalah? They're just being concerned parents. So we need to first of all look at the situation correctly, that they're trying to look out for you as normal concerned parents. That's fine. In my case, what I have done is I told them, yes, I am studying the wisdom of Kabbalah. I asked them if they're interested. I can give you some links. Check it out. That maybe you would find some interest in it as well. As much as I can, I try to explain to them that it's not something mystical and crazy. I try to really bring it down to their level, so they don't feel like you've gone into some cult or you've gone into some crazy business that you're stuck in all of your life or something of the sorts. So they really understand that this is not something that's mystical. It's not something crazy. It's not a cult, but it's something that helps answer this basic question that we all have. What is the meaning of my life? Why are we alive? And it's something that gives us a certain purpose, and that gives us the ability to satisfy that purpose. So, as much as you can, try to break down these misconceptions. It may not be easy, it may not be possible in some cases. Some people are really closed in. That's fine, you don't need to pressure them. So that's really what I would say. How about you? How would you answer this?
I would say yes. Just be understanding, be patient. That's first and foremost importance. The people will worry and will continue worrying primarily aside from the misconceptions that Albert is noting, primarily because they don't have that desire themselves yet. So it can be even a coworker that finds out that you study the wisdom of Kabbalah and will taunt you occasionally. Why would someone taunt somebody else over what they do with their free time, right? But in this case, it's something very unique and very interesting, because we're talking about the human ego, and the human ego is naturally naturally opposed to the wisdom of Kabbalah. You will see it in yourself sooner or later as well. Because the wisdom of Kabbalah speaks about how to transform that ego in order to make that ego, push that ego towards self-realization, right? And the ego itself is a very how do you say it? It's a very conservative type of thing. It wants to close itself off. It wants to guard itself at all times, and the wisdom of Kabbalah is here to transform the way we receive. And the human ego is something that does not want to change in that direction. So people are naturally against the wisdom of Kabbalah until they get that unique desire. That desire, the brand new desire that we call the point in the heart. But we're going to talk about it in...
Now's a good time.
Actually. Oh, now's a good time, yeah?
Please.
Okay.
All right. You want to tell us what is this point in the heart?
Okay, wonderful. I guess I've brought myself to this point accidentally. This desire is called the point in the heart. The point in the heart is a very initial, very tiny spark of a desire. It's the beginning of the desire for the sake of bestowal, the desire for the sake of the Creator. It's the very first true spiritual desire that we get. It's naturally it's brand new. We are here because the wisdom of Kabbalah promises something very tasty, something that we want to receive. We just don't know how to correctly receive it yet. And the wisdom of Kabbalah deals with not the pleasure that you get through eating something, like Albert was bringing up an example of eating a steak. Rather, it deals with how to correctly receive the spiritual pleasure that the wisdom of Kabbalah is promising. The Creator is a certain emanation. The Creator is a certain force that is that emanates toward us chunks of pleasure, so to speak. Let's put it this way, right? Some of it transforms into our world. A lot of it goes completely unnoticed. A lot of it goes doesn't register on our radar. We are here to transform the desire to receive in order to be able to detect that pleasure, that's one, and two, to correctly receive it. The way we correctly receive it is through the correction of that intention.
And what is the intention? How do we do this practically? We're going to go into much more details about this throughout the entire semester. Don't worry about that. One thing I did want to add, I'm not sure if it was clear, what is this thing called the point in the heart? We said it's a desire, but how do we really define it? Well, the way the Kabbalists define this thing, point in the heart, they say the heart is the sum of all of our desires. So it's something to add to your Kabbalistic dictionary. Right? The heart, what is it? It's the sum of all of our desires. Everything we have in this life for food, sex, family, money, honor, power, knowledge, all of the stuff. All of the different desires that we have in our life. And within that heart, within that sack of desires, let's say, within this collection of desires that we have within us, there's a single desire. There's one single desire there. It's like a little point. It's a little dot. There's that one single desire that's different from all the others. How's it different? This is already a spiritual desire. What makes it spiritual? It's something that we cannot satisfy, try as we might, on our current level of existence. It's sort of like I have a desire for, let's say I'm thirsty, and I'm trying to read a book. And I'm thinking by reading a book I will satisfy this desire, this thirst. But it doesn't work. And this is that initial desire that really awakens within us, that drives us towards the wisdom of Kabbalah. In my story that I told you of how I came to the wisdom, it was that feeling of emptiness, that I had everything, but still I had something that wasn't satisfying me. It's like I had this one desire, let's say for thirst, and I was trying to put in it all these other desires. I was trying to put into it money and knowledge and reading a book and all sorts of these different things. But obviously, this is not the corresponding pleasure for this desire. So the point in the heart, what is it? It's the spiritual desire. It's something that we have that brings us to the wisdom of Kabbalah. And now we're really coming full circle when we said, what is the wisdom of Kabbalah? It's the method for attaining this thing called the Creator in this life. And who can study it? Anyone. Remember we said anyone who wants to reach this thing called the Creator, anyone, but they need to have this desire, they need to have this inclination, they need to have this question, why are we alive? And these are the type of people that normally come to the wisdom of Kabbalah. They feel a certain emptiness in life. They want to learn how to properly receive. This is why it's called Kabbalah, reception. Mm-hmm. How do we properly receive? How do we satisfy that one desire that we just cannot try as we might? That. In a nutshell, that's what the wisdom is all about.
Ken from Austin, Texas is asking an apt question. So are we doing this based on a promise for greater pleasure? Is there greater pleasure?
Of course, there's greater pleasure. There's such pleasure that you can't even imagine, that you can't even put into words. Are we doing this for the promise of a greater pleasure? Yes, you could say it is, because it's a certain desire that we have, we're not fulfilled, it's pushing us towards something. We looked in life and you can't seem to satisfy this desire. So what winds up happening, yes, we want to find a way to satisfy it. We're asking, why are we alive? How do we receive pleasure? How do we have some kind of happiness in life that's not just some fleeting few seconds of enjoyment? So from one point of view, yes, you can say that it's based on the process for, how do you put it? Based on
the promise for greater
pleasure. You could say that, okay.
Janet from by the way, promise for greater pleasure, right? When we're talking about attaining the Creator, right? I apologize, Janet. We'll get to your question in a second. Attaining the Creator, right? The whole idea of attainment of the Creator is in itself is the greatest bounty that we can possibly imagine. This is the root of our existence that we are coming full circle back to in order to fully attain and taste and take pleasure in. And it is the pinnacle of life, the pinnacle of existence. This is the reason why we are born, to discover that force, to discover that quality, the quality of love, through which we can be endlessly, boundlessly happy. Janet from British Columbia, Canada is saying, I have heard that the study of Kabbalah actually changes how we see reality. This is hard to imagine and seems to me like it would be a scary process. What would you say?
I just want to take a side right here and tell you I'm really loving the fact that we're on the same page today, because I also had the same question ready. And
right there, yeah,
right there.
Wonderful. Okay, all right.
It was just an aside, guys. So let's get back to business. So she's saying, I've heard that the study of Kabbalah actually changes how we see reality. This is hard to imagine. Seems to me like it would be a scary process. Is it a scary process? What are we trying to do here? This is, I think, this really relates to one of the misconceptions, one of the things that usually gets tied to the wisdom of Kabbalah, that people say, oh, be careful, you can go crazy, or this can happen and that can happen. She's saying maybe it's something scary, maybe we're going to reveal something that we don't want to reveal. And I'll tell you this, that there's nothing scary about the wisdom of Kabbalah. For me, what's scarier is living with this feeling of this question, this burning sensation, why are we alive, and not reaching an answer. This is the equivalent of the biggest depression you can possibly imagine. Because think about it. What is depression if not that you want something and you can't really have it, or you feel unsatisfied, you feel like you're lacking something. But the wisdom of Kabbalah is the complete opposite of that. It's saying there's a way to be happy in life. There's a way to be satisfied. There's a way to receive unlimited pleasure. There's a way to rise above this life and have a feeling of this eternality that the Creator is in. And all of that we reach while we're alive, while we're here now in this world. We're not waiting, we're not basing our whole life on some belief something will happen to us after we die. But we're actualizing our lives to the fullest. So I would say, for me at least, the scarier part would be to just live out my life. This is something I'm very, very much so afraid of. That I want to use this life to the maximum. I want to attain this thing called the Creator. And not doing that is, for me, is much more scarier than anything I can picture in the wisdom of Kabbalah.
But in terms of revealing a different reality, Janet, Kabbalists tell us that our reality, this corporeal world, is the scariest of all of the worlds that are there, and each one above this world, each reality. That keep in mind that we are only able to process what only our five senses are able to decipher. If you're born blind, you would never even know what it means to see something, a color red, a color blue, or a certain shape. It would be like, no, you're lying to me. There is no such thing as seeing, but yes, there is this thing called seeing, and this is what Kabbalists are telling us, that there is a much greater reality. As a matter of fact, we're only a minute fraction of percentage of what is actually emanating toward us as the information of reality. So our reality is very limited and very ugly. Frankly, it is very ugly. With all the beauty in the world, it's also a very ugly world as well. Because of all the suffering and the sensation of incompleteness, and the sensation of dissatisfaction that we constantly feel. Max from Carolina is also asking, will Kabbalah teach me how to avoid suffering in my heart? Most certainly, yes. Not only how to avoid suffering, but most importantly, how to continually strive toward greater happiness. And last but not least, before we get to class announcements, Fabio from London is kind of, the biggest question of the night. What is the meaning of life? And he's saying, even though we're not ready, I really would like to hear your answers. Fabio, there is no actual, the answer itself is the fulfillment that you will receive at the very end of the path. The meaning of life is to do this right here. Attain the Creator. This is what we are set out to do. In this life, we are supposed to be attaining the Creator. We're supposed to be attaining the root of our existence. The place from which everything, all of the creature, the whole creation has emanated from. That force is the force of love. It's the law of love, and it contains within it unlimited, boundless delight. We are here to attain it. We're here to taste it, to sense it, to wallow in it. You name it. But within that, you can call it event, for example, right? Within that event of final, complete, full attainment of the Creator is also something else, and it's a certain realization that truly and completely and fully answers the question of what is the meaning of life. So just to tell you that it's the great pleasure, no, absolutely not. It sounds a bit hedonistic. No, this is not quite what it is, just to take all of that pleasure. Rather, within it is the conclusion, the closure, so to speak, for this whole huge cycle that we've made.
Wow. I can't believe it's already time to close. This lesson just flew by. Yeah. So, guys, stick around. There's some very important announcements. I know it's your first class. We're going to get through all these announcements. They're very important because they'll let you know some of the things that are going to take place, how to connect to the future lessons, and etc. So we have Spring 2015 Fundamentals. Welcome to your first Kabbalah class. Your next lesson will be on Sunday, April 19th. So Sunday, April 19th is your next lesson. You can watch the lesson at either 8 p.m. Eastern Time or at 8 p.m. Pacific Time. Depends which one you're more comfortable doing. The primary textbook for all Bnei Baruch classes is Kabbalah for the Student, this big green book that Vlad told you about. The bookstore is offering a special package for each semester that includes key books related to that semester. So you can find them by going to the bookstore tab on the EC website. So check out the bookstore, check out this book. It's really a gold mine. The student Q&A forum for our fundamentals students is now open, where you can ask any question that you may have about Kabbalah and see what other students are asking. Just click on the forum tab above the chat window, then scroll down until you see the Spring 2015 Fundamentals Forum. Questions go into a moderation queue for our instructors and moderator staff to answer. So you'll not see your question posted immediately, but we try to post the question and answer within 24 hours. But some questions may take longer. I guess the really juicy ones, huh? There are many services available to help you in your studies in addition to the classes. Recordings of the lessons will be posted within 24 hours of the class. You can find them on the archive tab above the chat window. Lastly, if you have any comments, questions, or problems of any type, please send an email to ec@kabbalah.info. We have volunteers who will help you or make sure that your questions get routed to the right person. And one last thing, for those of you in the Toronto area who would like to experience this class in a physical setting, that's also available. As we said, there's this campus going on in Toronto. People are gathering physically to connect to these lessons. And of course, there's more local activities after this lesson as well that's taking place specifically in Toronto. So if you're in the Toronto area and you want to connect to this lesson physically, just send an email to ec@kabbalah.info or post it on the forum, and they'll give you the information of how to do that.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, friends. We're completely and utterly out of time. It's a great pleasure to be with you. Please stick around. The second lecture will be on Sunday, I believe 8 p.m. Eastern time at least. It's going to be at 8 p.m. Basically, this course is being handled by two completely different centers. So we're doing the odd classes. The Israeli friends are taking care of the even ones, and it's a very involving wisdom, incredibly interesting, incredibly revelatory. We are absolutely convinced that whoever goes through even the very basic, a 10-week course with us, and we know this from experience as well, will feel themselves as though a completely transformed person. You will reap benefits from it by quite large measures. So we strongly urge you to stick around and really really marvel at how much this wisdom has to offer.
So, on this note, thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you again next time.
All right. Bye-bye.